In 2005, in a poll to determine the greatest Canadian who ever lived, David Suzuki was ranked 5th by his fellow citizens, which made him the greatest living Canadian. As scientist, author, broadcaster, and teacher, David Suzuki has been interpreting and defending nature to audiences in Canada and the world for more than 40 years. He has consistently ranked as Canada's most trusted, most admired, and most inspiring leader.
I think our greatest problem now is that what is driving our agenda now is a corporate agenda. And I think we've got to face that. We act as if corporations are people. They're not. Corporations are simply the definition of a group of people bound together who are committed to one thing and one thing only. They may produce things that we need, things that we value, but the reality is the function, the role of a corporation is to make money. The more, the faster, the better. And that is and I've had many arguments and discussions with CEOs of forest companies when we were involved with battles with the forest industry in British Columbia. And they tell me, look, your argument is not with me. My job is to make money for my shareholders, and I'm good at it. If I didn't make money for my shareholders, I'd be booted out of there in a minute. So if you don't like what we're doing, your argument isn't with us. Your argument is with your government that allows us to do this. And they're right. Our system is set up so that we try to manage our forests, but our management policies are to help the corporate sector, who are fighting constantly against regulation. Let us do it, trust us. We've got track records now that go back decades. You know, corporations in their drive for profit disregard anything else, and that's what their primary focus is. So trust us and don't regulate, and don't tax us. And it's worked very well for the corporate agenda, but I think it's time for people to realize corporations are not people, and yet we allow them to fund candidates for political office. Well, who the hell's got the most money to fund candidates? It's corporations. And once people are elected, who is the first person in the door? Your major funders, corporations. So we run on a corporate agenda, as you well know in Nova Scotia.
Well, it's in a way, it's kind of like a political monoculture, right? It's the diversity
Exactly.
you were talking about as being strength.
Exactly.
Is kind of swept away because of this singular drive for profit.
And the problem is that we have had a situation where we get the argument, look, we can't do anything about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It'll destroy the economy. And in that simple statement that our Prime Minister has been repeating like a mantra for the last 15 or 20 years of his political life, we elevate the economy above the very atmosphere that keeps us alive. The economy is more important than the air we breathe. What kind of madness is that? Why do we do this? Well, I think part of the problem is if you look at the evolutionary history of our species, we evolved in Africa 150,000 years ago. For 95% of human existence, we were nomadic hunter-gatherers. We had to follow game and plants through the seasons wherever they were. When you're a nomad and you've got to carry everything you own on your back, you know very well that nature is the source of your survival and well-being. You understand where you belong. In the last 10,000 years of human existence, that signaled the agricultural revolution. In 1900, when there were 1.6 billion people in the world, there were only 14 cities with more than 1 million people. London was the largest with 6.5 million people. Most people in Canada, United States, lived in rural village communities because 75–80% of us were involved in some aspect of agriculture. We were farmers. And farmers understand very well that weather and climate are critical to our survival. They know in Canada the amount of snow in the winter directly related to the amount of moisture in the soil in the summer. They know you need insects to pollinate flowering plants, that certain species of plants will fix nitrogen as fertilizer in the soil. Farmers understand we are dependent on nature. But something happened in the last 100 years. We went from 1.6 billion in 1900. In the year 2000, now 6 billion people, 4 times as many people, but over 400 cities with 1 million people or more. So By the year 2000, the 10 largest cities all had more than 11 million people. In Canada, 85% of us lived in big cities. So in a big city, your sense is, well, we create our own habitat, we create the city, and as long as we have a few parks to go and camp and play in, who needs nature? In a city, my highest priority is my job. I need a job to make the money to buy the things I want. And so in a city, the economy becomes very easily perceived as our highest priority. And when nature is no longer seen as something that is crucial to our well-being and survival, then I think you see a country that is as destructive as Canada has been and justifies everything in the name of economic progress.
The legendary David Suzuki, the most revered environmental leader in Canada, reflecting on the tragedy of what we've done and the urgency of what we need to do now. Not long ago, we did a green interview with another brilliant Suzuki, David's daughter, Sarika Cullis Suzuki. You might want to look at that one too. For the green interview, I'm Silver Donald Cameron. I look forward to meeting you here again.